Well, evidence of election fraud is going on all over the place, and the media is trying to claim, oh, there's no evidence. Where's the evidence? I mean, it's like they stuck their hand in the sand and put their fingers in the air and going, la, 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 la. Hey, welcome back to the Jacob Johnston Show. I know I haven't been producing a lot of videos lately. It's just because everything that is breaking so massively that the only way I can try and cover a lot of it is through my audio podcast, which you can subscribe. You know, just look for the Jacob Johnston Show, this exact cover art, and you'll be able to get more and more information updated. Because every time I try to put together a video show, more breaking news happens. So much. So let's first cover that. The reason why the Democrats got caught is a couple folds. One, we knew the election fraud was coming. In fact, Democrats have been engaged in election fraud for years. I mean, we've known about dead people, people out of state. We've caught them through Project Veritas, admitting to bussing people around, voting multiple times. We caught them trying to target conservatives using the IRS back in 2012. The whole Spygate, Obama's, spying on the Trump campaign. So they've been escalating in election fraud in order to try and rig the outcome of the election. But this whole going straight through the voting machines, wow. And I get it. There's a lot of people out there talking about that raid on Seidel. And I'm unable to confirm whether or not that happened. On the one hand, people are making suggestions within government. Louis Gohmert, representative, and a couple other people are saying, yep, maybe it did happen. The Gateway Pundit is saying their sources confirmed it happened, but we can't get any confirmation here. At least I can't find any actual concrete confirmation. So it's kind of a maybe, maybe not. And me personally, until I see further evidence, I'm going to go off and assume that is too good to be true. But we found more. See, one of the issues here and why there's so many anomalies, that has raised so many red flags and allowed us to catch so much fraud is because they severely underestimated Trump's support. How many people were going to vote for Trump, and it overwhelmed the systems that they put in place to rig the election and created anomalies all over the place. But there's also a few other things that had happened. Plus, Trump was warning us the election fraud was coming. Okay? So there are a lot of things that are going on here. Now, some of you are going off and saying, well, the Georgia recount, they're doing it by hand. They're maybe doing it an audit, and therefore that will uncover a lot of fraud. Will it? There's some evidence here that the Georgia recount is a sham. Right? And which is why, the Secretary of State or the person who is in charge of the recount is going out there saying he's being pressured to toss out legal votes, to get rid of legal votes and rig the election for Trump, right? He's making that waves. But what he didn't know is that Project Veritas got an undercover reporter inside of the Georgia recount. So what did Project Veritas uncover? Well, let's take a look at a clip of what's going on inside the Georgia recount.
So the second person is supposed to be checking it, right? So 3 times in 3 minutes she called out Biden. The second auditor caught it, and she said, no, this is Trump.
It's not mandatory.
Now, that's just while I'm standing there. So does the second checker catch it every time? But this lady, 3 times in 3 minutes, from 2:09 to 2:12, she got 3 wrong.
That's just in the short time that you were...
That I was standing there. And does it get corrected every time? Because the next table I went to right after that, the only reason I left that table is because there was one where the first person was reading it off, handing it to her. She's not even looking at it, she's just putting it in.
Putting it in which set?
Whatever one the first person said. So table 17 was the first one where the woman got it wrong 3 times. Table 18 was where the first person would call out Biden or Trump. She'd pass it across the table. The other person did not even look at it and just put it wherever the first person said. That person was supposed to be auditing it, checking the second one. And so here's what happened after that. So I go and report it. They say, oh, we'll talk to the election officials, blah, 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 blah. They tell her, hey, I guess they again in a few minutes. She's not doing that after they've talked to her. So I come and stand next to her, and she goes like this. Like being all cutesy about it, being exactly.
Being snarky.
Yeah, so I keep walking, I turn around, I look, and she's looking at me walking away.
Okay, did you catch that? So this is by hand. And people are going off and looking at the ballots, and they're seeing votes for Trump, and they're saying Biden. And some of the people who are going off to check to make sure that it was in fact who they called it for aren't even looking. And they've already caught people who are calling out Trump votes for Biden and then getting that put into the Biden pile. Right? So that is quite amazing. Now, there are some honest people in there that are catching that and going, no, how do you, no, that's not right. And other people who are just, I don't care, just kind of going off and doing their own thing. Okay, so the Georgia recount already has some problems. Thank you, Project Veritas, for getting one of your undercover journalists inside of the recount to show what's going on. Man, James O'Keefe, you would think that with everything that you've already done, they would be too afraid to try and get away with this stuff, knowing that you have undercovers everywhere trying to uncover corruption. I'm so glad you exist. But is that the only evidence that we have of election fraud? No, not the evidence is mounting to the size of Mount Everest here. And yes, I'm doing this live stream, and I'm going to be putting a copy of this video up on places that I can't live stream to. And so you may hear the kids as they are waking up and starting to move around, and they're going to be getting ready for school. Sorry about that. But there is more things that are going on here. Massive corruption that we are finding. And this is even before the rigging of the election. Now, what else do we have, in news reports that are showing evidence of mass corruption? Well, take a look at this, Jim.
Another issue is the keys. The keys to the machine are digital devices. It's unclear what the device is. It might be like an RFID device or USB or something, but it is clear that it's a digital device that holds some kind of cryptographic key on it. If you lose this physical key, you lose absolute security of the entire precinct. So, for example, if, say, Philadelphia was storing these keys in a warehouse and they were robbed and the only thing stolen were these keys and a laptop, then you should consider their entire election to be illegitimate because they have lost the physical security of the system, which is the most important part of information security.
And that's exactly what happened in Philadelphia just 1 month before the election. USB drives and a laptop had been stolen from a key precinct in Philadelphia. On Election Day, Biden overtook Trump's 800,000 vote lead in the dark of night.
Wait, what? So you're saying that everything someone would need to be able to bypass all security of these machines was robbed from a storage facility 1 month before the election? And that's not raising any eyebrows for all of these serious investigators, such as the police, the FBI, the Department of Justice, anybody in the media out. It's amazing. How we've seen Fox News completely collapse in on itself, that they went all in and said, okay, you know what, we're abandoning Trump, we're going for Joe Biden. And so all of these networks that they thought, they're just kind of really small networks, they're not even competition to even CNN, are now the ones that are breaking all the news, engaging in all the journalism and, doing all the research. And you could see that their ratings and their audience are exploding. And they're getting set. What is it? Newsmax that's getting set to overtake, is on course to overtake Fox News. Wow. Fox News committed mass corporate suicide for nothing. So now we have a robbery that happened for everything that you would need to bypass all security through these voting machines in the election. Wow. And yet the mainstream media says, no evidence. Don't look behind the curtain. And I bring this up because there's a lot of other things that are happening with Trump's lawyers where they're saying they have the smoking gun now. You know, they do have it, and that the only thing the Democrats want, including Joe Biden, is a trip to jail. That they're going to be going off and ending up behind bars, that they got the smoking guns. In fact, they put out an affidavit, a copy of an affidavit from a whistleblower who worked inside the software companies for these voting machines, attesting that this voting software was specifically designed to rig elections in countries like Venezuela. You know, how did Venezuela go from a very prosperous democracy to a socialist hell? You think people kept voting for that person legitimately? You know, these elections are so rigged that they're basically like designed for a Russian election outcome. You know, how Putin always ends up winning by massive numbers. You know, and they're also saying that this is beyond just the United States. That this election rigging has been going on in multiple countries throughout the world, multiple democracies, including maybe a couple over in Europe, right? So, you know, it's not just that, oh, this is isolated to the United States or isolated to a few key swing states. No, we're talking about the potential of things that are infinitely more than what Watergate ever could have been. We're talking about international election rigging operations here. And of course, the connections to George Soros, the Clinton Foundation, and so many of the usual actors that, you know, seem to always come up in all these scandals with the Democrats. You know, the IRS, all the way to Spygate. Now, the fact that the Democrats have never faced any consequences for their past actions kind of makes me wonder if, is jail time really something that's going to happen? Not a single person went to jail, regardless of all the massive evidence of the illegal spying operation on the Trump campaign. Okay, so what else do we have? Well, it turns out there's even more. And I'm only able to get around in the time that I have for the video 4 clips, you know, giving you insights into what the election fraud was. All right, so please subscribe to the audio podcast if you want to get more information on a more regular daily basis where I can go into more depth, because video takes so much time to produce and I don't have a big team here. All right, in fact, it's just me. Okay, so let's go ahead and take a look at clip number 3. Well, there's my youngest, my 4-year-old now running around. But let's go ahead and take a look at clip number 3.
A data analysis raises questions over the accuracy of Pennsylvania's ballots. This comes as the Trump campaign files a lawsuit hoping to trigger a recount. NTD's Juliet Song reports.
A data analysis found 2 anomalies in Pennsylvania's mail-in ballots, ballots with impossible postmarks, and voters that are too elderly. This raises the question of whether something is wrong with the ballots or the voter database. The analysis is based on the state's voter database, which is open to the public. Among them, over 20,000 ballots are marked as having been returned to the ballot office before the date they were sent to voters. Over 30,000 are returned on the same day. Over 9,000 have no sent date, and over 50,000 marked as returned 1 day after being mailed. There could be one reason behind ballots with no sent date, that voters cast them in person, as they are allowed to walk through the process in one shot if visiting a designated location. But it won't be enough to explain the ballots returned on the same day, as the voter database says if ballots are marked with a sent date, then it means the ballot would be mailed to the voter. Put together, over 100,000 ballots have impossible or unlikely dates, which accounts for almost 4% of the total.
Wait, what? What? Now, are are the Democrats going to go off and try and claim, oh, that's just user error? 118,000 user errors? Okay, so let's go ahead and take a look at this claim of user error. If they can have 118,000 instances in just a few days, or just in this short period of time of the election, 118,000 instances of user errors, making mistakes in the database, then how many instances of user errors is there throughout the rest of the election process? I mean, that's a massive amount of user errors that are going on here, right? If it is user error, right? So how do you get to that? Plus, a record number of people, 120 years old, having been voting in this election. People, I mean, the evidence just keeps compounding. And maybe you can find one way to explain it, to explain one individual, but all of them constantly piling up. And again, you need to be over on Parler, taking a look at what Trump's lawyers are posting over there. That is not able to be censored by Twitter and Facebook. I mean, it is quite amazing. Now there's another video that is going out here. And at first, I was kind of like, oh my God, this is great. This is proof right there. And then someone said this video was somehow debunked. That it was just another, error, a typo, which I wasn't buying to begin with because this is a perfect mathematical typo. And then I see Trump's lawyers posting, this video as part of a montage of other videos. Well, a version of this video as part of a montage of other videos, and the whole typo or mistake thing doesn't make a whole lot of sense. So I'm just going to set this up so that you can check it out for yourself. It's a video of CNN's own live coverage. And during this video, if you look at the bottom, you see it going across, the states, and it shows what the total votes are, in each state, population votes for each of the candidates. And you see Pennsylvania in there. And then you see Pennsylvania. It goes through the states. And then you see Pennsylvania again. And suddenly, Trump has lost about 20,000 votes. And Biden has gained that exact same amount of votes that was subtracted from Trump. Now, they're trying to say a typo over there at CNN or the left. And I'm just like, yeah, but what kind of accidental typo has a perfect mathematical equation? So I was about to give them the benefit of the doubt until Trump's lawyers used this as part of their evidence in their case. So let's go ahead and take a look and judge for yourself. Pay very close attention to the vote totals.
These are to be decided, and that would push, and again, if you come at this from a Republican perspective, I did Joe Biden's math to get him up. Donald Trump's leading here. He's leading here. He's leading here. We expect him to win here. That's his. This one's interesting. We expect him to get this, and these normally would be Trump states out here and Alaska. So again, we're open to being surprised, but if it plays out in a traditional map, that's where we're going to be. That's where we'll be as we go to the West Coast, somewhere in that ballpark. It's not an exact science, but somewhere in that ballpark looking at.
Okay, did you see that? Did you see where the votes had shifted right there in real time during CNN's own live broadcast? Now, okay, so I'm going to take an audience question here. What is the evidence? Have you not been paying attention? All right. Have you not been paying attention? Public databases with impossible postmarks. Hey, a crime report that showed that, everything that was needed in order to, bypass all the security was stolen a month before the election. And if you go off and you follow Trump's lawyers over there on Parler, And I guess, maybe they are able to get away with it on Twitter as well. They've been posting a lot of the evidence. Now, as far as where is the concrete evidence beyond the affidavit, beyond all of the publicly available evidence that is already being uncovered all over the place, you're asking, where's the evidence? Well, the evidence, the major evidence, beyond everything that we're already showing you, is not going to be presented until they go to court. All right? Do you not understand this process here? The media has no entitlement to know what the evidence is before the court. The media doesn't decide jack squat about the election or about the lawsuits or any potential criminal cases. This is about a court of law, not the court of public opinion. All right? And evidence is mounting all over the place, all of the irregularities, everything that we have seen with these machines. All right? Now, as far as it goes, the lawyers that Trump has that are making these claims, it's not the Rudy Giuliani, it's Sidney Powell and Lynn Wood. Now, if you're not familiar with them, these are very serious lawyers. Lynn Wood is the lawyer that represented Nick Sandmann in suing the media, CNN and such, over, the blatant, lies that they made about Nick Sandmann, the Covington kid, and trying to label him a white supremacist and everything. So he's already taken out the media in one lawsuit. And then Sidney Powell is a very high-profile, serious, I guess she was a federal prosecutor as well. But these are not people that, are going to sacrifice their career making statements and allegations bombastically in public that they can't back up. Right? You understand this. You understand that the left is being desperate. In fact, they're getting so desperate that if you had watched CNN and Chris Cuomo, they are now openly threatening Republicans and confirming that, when they said you're going to lose more than your seats, they were meaning kind of more in a physical manner, not political manner. All right, they're going out there starting to just openly threaten people. They've been threatening Trump's lawyers to try and get him and them to stop the investigations or pushing for the investigations. All right, they've been trying to stop, any sense of a recount. They know they are caught red-handed. Why didn't they do this in 2016? They didn't think they had to. The whole Clinton's up 90%, 95%, it's guaranteed Clinton's going to win. They didn't think they had to. And plus, these particular machines were not in play in 2016. You understand? At least not all over the place, as they are now. In fact, if you go back to, 2018, 2019, Texas rejected the use of these machines, creating a report about all the problems these machines have. Right? In Georgia, they were trying to stop the implementation of these machines in Georgia back, I believe, in 2019. Right? With security experts saying, no, these machines are a complete and total disaster. So these particular versions of these machines were not in play in 2016. They are recent additions for this election. Okay. USA is a failed state. Partition is the only sane solution. You're talking about what the whole Civil War was designed to prevent. Learn your history there. Now, I guess at the same time, I'm responding to some user questions. I've kind of thought about this. Hey, let's just divide the countries. All the insane liberals on this side, all the conservatives on this side. Let the liberals go all, melt down in a socialist hellhole for theirs, while we, the rest of us, prosper and anybody who goes over there is not going to be allowed back.